Hi logic students, this video introduces symbolic logic, which is the subject of chapter 6 in our textbook. Students tend to find symbolic logic intimidating because it involves symbols, and some people tend to freak out when they see symbols. However, symbolic logic is your friend. You should have a positive attitude towards symbolic logic. And the reason is that symbolization is actually abbreviation. Symbolization helps shorten things. It makes communication easier. So you will find that symbolization is actually a big help in analyzing arguments, or determining if arguments are valid or invalid, and so forth. And abbreviations are things that are very familiar. We're all familiar with abbreviations. Think of CIA. We don't say, Central Intelligence Agency all the time. We just say CIA. A lot of governmental agencies are known through their abbreviations. FBI in place of Federal Bureau of Investigation. Sometimes we write ASAP to mean as soon as possible. And there are other interesting governmental abbreviations. For example, the Secret Service, which protects the president, refers to the president as POTUS, President of the United States. So there's POTUS, who is the president, and there's FLOTUS, who is the First Lady of the United States. Maybe you've also heard SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. There are many similar abbreviations. So this is really nothing unusual or arcane or mysterious. We use abbreviations all the time. Now, how does abbreviation or symbolization help in logic? Well, symbolization helps because it shows the structure of arguments. It's easier to see the structure of an argument if you abbreviate that argument, if you symbolize that argument. Here is an example. Consider this argument. If sea levels rise 20 feet worldwide, then coastal cities from New York to Sydney will be flooded. If the ice sheets on Antarctica slip into the sea, then sea levels will rise 20 feet worldwide. Therefore, if the ice sheets on Antarctica slip into the sea, then coastal cities from New York to Sydney will be flooded. Now, there's a lot of information to process here, and that information is useful, but it can also be distracting. The most important thing is to see the structure of the argument, because as you know, whether an argument is valid or invalid depends on its structure. It depends on how it is constructed. It doesn't depend on the subject matter or what the argument talks about. So what you can do here is a simple abbreviation. You can pay attention to the fact that there are statements that are repeated at different places in the argument. For example, sea levels rise 20 feet worldwide occurs here in the first premise. And also it occurs in the second premise here. Sea levels will rise 20 feet worldwide. It occurs in two places. So what if we took that statement and we simply replaced it with a capital letter of the English alphabet? You can choose whatever letter you want. It may be convenient maybe to choose the letter S. So that will remind us that in the original, this was sea levels rise 20 feet worldwide. So let's do that. Let's remove sea levels rise 20 feet worldwide, and let's replace it with S. And here again. Then you can pay attention to the fact that there's another sentence that that is repeated. Coastal cities from New York to Sydney will be flooded. It occurs here, and it occurs here. So you can replace that perhaps with the letter C. See how it gets immediately shorter, more manageable. And finally, the ice sheets on Antarctica slip into the sea. We can replace with maybe A. This is much more manageable. You can see the structure a lot better. The argument is based on the structure if S then C, if A then S, therefore if A then C. And when things are brought down to this more manageable level, it's easier to analyze them, and there are specific methods that you can use to determine if this argument is valid or invalid. So we're beginning here to see how to turn ordinary language or natural language such as English into a simpler abbreviated language of symbols. We will use basic symbols such as the capital letters of the English alphabet. We'll use them as symbols for complete statements of English, as in the example that we just did. And you can add a few more symbols and you will have a complete symbolic language. So in the next video, I will show you the other symbols that you will use. See you in video number 2. Thanks.